Okay, so we're looking at calculating the interquartile range, and we're just doing with a small number of data sets, so like not heaps and heaps of data. So just to remind yourself, excuse me, Q1 is the first quartile, and that just represents the part of the bottom 25%, but it's actually the top score that could have the top score of the bottom 25%, and I'll explain that in a second on my next diagram. Q2 is the second quartile, which is the median, the score in the middle, and Q3, the third quartile, is the score that represents the bottom of the top 25%. And now it doesn't sound a bit confusing, but when you have a look at my diagram, I hope it'll make sense. Okay, so we've got what's called a 5-point summary that we're going to turn into called a box plot or a box and whiskers, depending on the textbook. So the 5-point summary that you use is the lowest score and the highest score, and then Q1, Q2, Q3. And then you draw your scale to represent the scores, and then you have a line for the bottom. So this line here represents the bottom 25%. So Q1 is the top of the bottom 25%. Q2 is the score in the middle. And Q3, so this line here represents the scores that are in the top 25%. And Q3 is the bottom number of that top 25%. So that's what I'm trying to explain with that bottoms and tops. And at this stage, you assume that there are no outliers, so no scores that are really aberrant from the others. Okay? And there's a video on outliers as well. Okay, so copy that and come across. So this thing about the 5-point summary, you have to be able to understand that as well. Okay, so come across when you're ready. So we're looking at two types of questions. You have an odd number of numbers or an even number of numbers. Okay, and there's basically the method's the same, but there's slight tweaks. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the middle of 7 scores is that score, so that's going to be Q2. We have 3 scores behind, so that's going to be Q1. We have 3 scores ahead, and that's going to be Q3. Okay, so the 5-point summary, the numbers would be, the 5-point summary is 3, 4, 8, 10, 11. So lowest, highest, and then Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now the reason I've got another odd set of numbers is because you have a slightly different method here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the middle of 9 is the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that guy is Q2. Now this time when you come backwards, rather than having one middle, you've got 4 scores, so you have 2 middles. So this time Q1 will be the middle of 2 and 4. So up here, when you went backwards, you only had 1 middle. Now when you go backwards, you have 2 middles. And again, going forward, we've got 4 scores, so we've got 2 middles. So Q3 equals 8.5. Okay, so they're both odd sets of data, but they have 2 different methods when you go back and forwards to get Q1 and Q3. So copy that and come across when you're ready. Okay, now we're looking at an even number of data sets, and again, there's going to be 2 examples because they do differ in the answers, how you do it. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 2 middles, which are those 2 guys. So that's going to be Q2, and they're both the same score, so we have 6. And now when you have 2 middles, you just divide it in half, and then we go forwards, and we go, sorry, backwards, and we go forwards. So when you go backwards, there's 3 scores. So that guy is Q1. When you go forward, there's 3 scores, and that guy is Q3. Okay? Rightio. But this time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this time the middles are those 2. Okay? So Q2 equals 7.5. And then when you draw the line down the middle, rather than having an odd number, now you have an even number and an even number. So you have to do it again, splitting the middle. Okay, so splitting the middle is those guys, and splitting the middle is those guys. Okay, so even though it's an even number, sometimes you have an odd number or an even number backwards and forwards. So basically that's all you have to do with IQR. So copy that and hope you enjoyed. Bye.